Well, I'm actually working on the Z control arms again. Now what I noticed is when I started mocking up, the shock absorber was actually hitting on a couple of these because I didn't have them cut down far enough. Okay, so rather than mock them up each and find out which ones do or don't, I'm just going to go ahead and clamp them all in this setup in the mill here and just knock them down. And I'm not really going to knock that one down much more. That one's pretty low right there. With this one here, that can go down at least another 1/16 of an inch or so. The other one, it was probably an 1/8 inch proud, and I just took off close to an 1/8 inch on it. So I'm just going to whip through and clean these up real quick. So I pushed that one back close enough here to clean this up just a little bit. Not that it really matters or needs it or anything, but if you noticed it, the snout, the spindle nose here just barely cleared that. I do have the cutter bit, the end mill, sticking out just a little bit farther than I normally would, just to clear that. Let's do another one here. And when swapping them, since there's no spring or anything like that holding this one up, it's easiest to have your next one sitting there. That way you can hold that one, hold all the clamps and stuff like that, and then just put it back together there and clamp it down. Alright, there's the end of the Z control arm, the very outer end where the fulcrum pin goes. It's about an 1/8 of an inch too long because of the way I cut it on the bandsaw. So basically, instead of trying to get it back into the bandsaw and try to cut a sliver off, I'm just going to clamp it in here real quick, come down and just eyeball an 1/8 of an inch more or less. I could hit the Z if I wanted and do it, but let's just knock it down a little bit. That's it for that. I'll probably go ahead and throw each of the others in and trim them down just a little bit while I'm at it. Opening up the hole here in the gusset for the tension control rod bushings. So basically I found the center of my hole and I'm using, the parallels are holding it up. The vice stop is letting me center repeatably go back to the same position, and then I'm using a 5/8 inch end mill to cut it. So and that makes a beautifully, let it focus in here. It makes for a beautifully clean hole there, doesn't it? No bouncing around, no chatter. I do have a little bit of a burr on the back side, but zero on the front side. So I'm working on shortening this up so it'll fit behind the sway bar mount. Basically what's happening is it doesn't want to go in here. And rather than sit there and try to grind a bevel on it, I'm just simply shortening it up, which gets the clearance I need, and then I can do one setup. I can do all the sides. So you can see the difference there. Basically, I chopped it down to about 100 thou, 125 thou from that edge of the hole there. There you go. I'm also taking advantage of the fact that since this is a side cut, I can use a part of the end mill that will rarely get touched. The air blast is partly for cooling, but a lot of it is just simply to blow the chips off the cutter. Well, I'm setting up a bit of a temporary fixture here. Seed lower control arm. Okay. I did mark a little Sharpie mark there where when I had the spacer in here to put it right. Okay, so what happens is because of how far back I have this, I think on the next batch I'm just simply going to shorten this up by about 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch. It'll still be able to blend in and work well with the welding and stuff like that, but it would save me this whole step of having to clearance the backside, okay, putting a chamfer on it there so that it doesn't sit up proud. Okay, so that's what this setup is doing right now. So I figured out roughly what the angle was. Put the piece in here kind of temporary to get at the angle I wanted. Then I set a vice stop here that I can lean that against, and I put a block down here. So the cutter's going to come around the backside here and cut this side off, not this side. Okay. So once it's loosened up, you know, I can put it in there and have a couple of edges fairly close. And then just a quick check, make sure they're even here. I may put another stop on the other side there, but you know, I've only got 5 of the things to do. So you might even be able to see how much it twists the jaws on here. It's a cheap 5-inch vise. Okay, so one thing I want to do too is I want to come over here and touch off my vise stop, and then bring it up a little bit and zero my Z so that I can go back to the other side. I don't want to have to keep moving the X back and forth because I'm basically just doing it in one cut. So once I'm clear over here, I'll set this back to 0 or really close. This isn't anything of any kind of precision here, so let's lop it off. I'm leaving, you know, 3/30 seconds in here. I don't want that paper thin. I don't need it paper thin. It's just going to burn away with the weld too easy if I do that. So 3/30 seconds to 1/8 of an inch will work just fine. Got my foot out of the way, luckily. I should be doing it like Brad with the impact wrench. I'm just eyeballing the depth there. And I could do it on the grinder. You know, but here I'm taking basically big chunks of steel out. They're not blowing in my face. It doesn't create a ton of dust. I'll do the cleanup work. I still got to do a little beveling around the edges here and stuff, take the burrs off. I'll do that stuff on the grinder. But for the main metal removal, I'd just as soon do it on here. Look at that. It's exactly opposite of the other one. So, that saved me a whole bunch of setup time and changing those things around, so. Oh, look, and they're 90 degrees. Recognize these. By prepping all these parts, hopefully this means that the next guys that want Z control arms, they won't have to wait months for the turnaround like the first ones. And this will be another surface that I just cut back on the laser cutter. That way I don't have to bevel them in the future.
Very quiet. What was that? Rabbit sounds fly.